Hey everyone, so today I want to do a video on which milk is better. So the question I keep getting commonly asked is blue milk, so full fat milk, better for you than say skimmed milk, so red milk, for any of my kind of New Zealand audience. So essentially, the first thing that we need to look at is essentially what's the difference in the two milks. So we know that full fat milk has a higher fat content than say if we compare it to a non-fat version such as skim milk. There's also a lot of other different milks now on the market. So we know that there's now come into the UK, there's protein milk, so it's added protein, which has still removed the fat content but has added protein. So there are a lot of milks for us to choose from these days, and I guess it starts to get confusing when we have different choices. So let's look at it from a calories point. So straight away we know that full fat milk has more fat in it, therefore it has more calories in it in comparison to red milk. So how does it compare over a long term? So over the long term, this can start to really add up. So if we say that we drink 200 mils a day of either milk, blue milk or skim milk, then we need to take into consideration, and 200 mils is probably like one shake if you have a shake in the morning or a smoothie, or even if you're someone who drinks a lot of tea or coffee, 200 mils is probably relatively, on average, what people would drink in a day-to-day basis. Same example if you were someone who has cereal or muesli or granola in the morning. So how does this add up over a week, and how could this play an effect on essentially our weight loss? So full fat milk has 130 calories in it per 200 mils. And then if we compare this to skimmed milk, this has 69 calories in it per 200 mils. So if we then look at that from a week perspective, full fat milk has, if we drink 200 mils 7 days a week, we know that that's going to then add up to 910 calories. And then if we compare this to skimmed milk, if we have 200 mils, so 69 calories per 200 mils, and we times that by 7, we're then looking at 483 calories. So you can see there's quite a substantial difference in calories. If we look at that from a week perspective, that's a difference of 427 calories. That's nearly a meal, or roughly a meal's worth of calories for a lot of people, and the difference really is just the difference in full fat milk versus skimmed milk. So that could play a huge increment on someone's calorie deficit, so that could easily remove someone from their calorie deficit as well. So if we just look at calories per se, then we know that really if someone's struggling to stay in their calorie deficit, then skimmed milk is going to probably be a better option for them, as it's going to allow them to stay in their calorie deficit or achieve that calorie deficit, and therefore lose weight if weight loss is their only goal. We then need to look at this from a health perspective. So we know that full fat milk, when we're growing up, when we're very young, we get advised to basically have full fat milk. And there is a good reason for this. We know that full fat milk has more fat content, and we know that essentially the health benefits from a vitamins and minerals perspective is greater. So from a minerals perspective, calcium is slightly higher. It's not significantly, but it is slightly higher in full fat milk as opposed to skim milk. But we know that in order to absorb vitamins and minerals, we need a fat component. Same with vitamin D, which is hugely important for people living in the UK or anywhere where you're not getting direct sunlight. So we know that vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it's bound to the milk and it's absorbed in the intestine. So we know that fat, when it's removed from the milk, we may kind of mess, or that lack of dependence on that chain working as optimally as possible is broken, and therefore it's not as well absorbed by the body. So we could miss out on some of the important nutrients that we need. And this is where you start to look at the health benefits of full fat milk versus skimmed milk. So although, yes, skimmed milk is a lot lower in calories, and that can add up and play a huge effect on your weekly calorie deficit if your goal is weight loss, So we need to take that into consideration. However, if we're looking from a health perspective, we also know that semi-skimmed milk or skimmed milk has lower levels of the fat-soluble vitamins, so A, K, D, calcium, only slightly, but how it's absorbed is a huge impact as well. So we need to take and look at the picture between the two. We also know that full-fat milk tastes a lot better than skimmed milk. However, a lot of people have different preferences on this as well. A lot of people growing up have used skim milk a lot of the time, and therefore I know a lot of people tell me that they can't have full fat milk in their tea because it tastes funny because they're not used to that. So we do know that our taste buds will adjust depending on what we have had for long periods of time. So we need to take that into consideration as well from a taste perspective. So to kind of conclude this video, we need to look at two things. We need to look at calorie intake and we need to look at health. So this always comes back to the kind of argument of calories versus food quality. The two things are very, very important. However, if you are someone who is really struggling with weight loss and you drink a lot of milk, it may be worth mixing the two, or even moving some of the time or some of your milk beveraged foods or drinks, such as maybe your smoothies or your coffees, if you have a milky coffee, to maybe semi-skimmed or skimmed milk to save yourself some calories, but then getting the benefits of fats maybe from full fat milk on certain things. So the way you could look at this is, an example would be like if you're someone who has a milky coffee every day and you drink a smoothie in the morning. What you could do is use the smoothie in the morning with full fat milk, but have your milky coffee with skimmed milk or semi-skimmed milk to save yourself some calories. And over the long term, over a week, over a month, that will start to add up and make sure that you can adhere to your calorie deficit. So essentially the kind of long concluding answer is calories are important, but also health is important, and we need to take these two things into consideration. If you are someone who has more health goals at this point, full fat milk is going to be hugely beneficial to you. If you're someone who is really trying to stay in a calorie deficit and you're struggling, potentially you need to move some of your options maybe to semi-skimmed or skimmed milk, or you can really just look at kind of bringing down your whole milk consumption in order to stay within your calorie requirements. So calories are going to be king for you. Hopefully this kind of answers the question regarding full fat milk versus skimmed milk, and if you have any further questions on this, please do just comment below.